Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Where Do We Begin? I'm pumped for you guys to be all here in this one. My name is Harper. I'll be your co-host today, and my other co-host goes by the name of Lockie. How are you, Lockie?
Mate, I'm really good. I'm just super excited to get this next episode out. I think it's one of our best yet. We have current Australian basketball player, 2016 Olympian and NBA player Ryan Broekhoff on, and I'm just super excited.
Yeah, it's a huge one. I'm super excited for you to all get to know Ryan. He's a great guy, and I reckon we should just get straight into it.
Let's go.
We spoke about it in the intro. This is an absolutely huge guest. He's played in the NBA, he's played in the Olympics, he's played in World Cups, and of course he's played in Frankston. He is one of Australia's best basketballers. He goes by the name of Ryan Rowdy Broekhoff. And Ryan, I reckon that's a nickname with a bit of an interesting story.
No, not really, actually. I got it when I was sort of 14 or 15, and I was sort of the tall, quiet kid, real quiet. And my basketball coach, obviously, playing sports, communication and talking and stuff's very important when you're on the floor, on the field, or whatever it is. And basically, I didn't say anything to anyone at any time. And the coach basically sort of stopped training because I wasn't speaking, and sort of said, gave me a bit of a rev up, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to start calling you Rowdy until you start like talking and being that way. And it definitely has stuck since then.
Yeah, I found that with my involvement in sporting teams, normally the best players are normally pretty loud. So were you still one of the best players on your team at the time?
We had a really strong team going through. Like that age group ended up winning under 16s BC, which is basically the best team in Victoria. So we had a really good team, and I was one of the better players, but I don't know if I can say I was the best back then.
Yeah, 100%. And I read an article from Forbes, which I think they did on you the other day. And so you're training at a local YMCA gym at the moment. Is that correct?
That's correct. Got to find a way to get work in wherever I can at the moment. And with things still somewhat shut down over here, that's been the easiest place to get into. It has a basketball court and a weights room, so that's all you need.
Yeah, has everything you need. Do you get recognised a bit when you're down there? I mean, it'd be pretty crazy if I'm just there, I'm just, bench pressing my 40 kilos, and then I turn around, there's an NBA player next to me just smashing 220 flat.
Geez, must be thinking of someone else, not me. But, a few times I get recognised, and people here in Dallas are big Mavs fans. So when I do, they're super great about it, and like, oh, we miss you on the Mavs, and they don't sort of come up and like interrupt me or anything like that. They kind of wait until I'm finished shooting, or between sets in the weight room, just to kind of come say hello and say they're big fans. And so it's been nice to have that sort of recognition for my short time over here.
Yeah, have you been challenged to any one-on-one games while in the gym? Has any fan come up and challenged you?
No, not yet. So I'm waiting for that time. Play a little horse or something for some money. Tough time during COVID.
Yeah, I noticed you've picked up a bit of an American accent, but you grew up down here in Victoria, in Melbourne. So I want to get a bit of a sense. You're a bit older than both of us. What was the basketball scene like in the 90s and the early 2000s when you were growing up here?
It was, to me anyway, it felt massive. Thanks for picking on me with the accent. Obviously, been over here too long. Marrying an American woman probably isn't helping the case either. So, it was basically all consuming for me growing up, and Frankston was, especially during my time, such a big, strong club, and once I kind of got into that system, everything else opened up, and we had a really good team that went through, and we all basically stayed together. That the whole junior program, which is pretty rare, and it's pretty special. Those guys are still some of my closest friends right now. But that opened up stuff with state tryouts, and it was called ITCP back then, which was sort of early morning training, intensive training for guys kids that they thought may, go on to more or to play in the state team and things like that. So, it became an everyday that I had something going on basketball wise during that time. And, it was a fun time, but it was really busy.
Did you have particular heroes in the NBA or maybe even NBL back in the day?
I sort of looked up to more Australians when I was growing up. Andrew Gay, Shane Hill, those kind of guys. It was, I didn't have Foxtel growing up. So, getting NBA games was just not something that I really got a chance to watch. When I'd go to friends on weekends and things like that, then we'll watch some games, and some reason it was always like Dallas. And my friend Ben, who I spent a lot of time with growing up, he was a big Tim Duncan Spurs fan, so for some reason it was always Dallas Spurs, and I kind of leaned more towards sort of Dirk and watching the Mavs. So it was kind of funny when everything came full circle and I got my time here.
Yeah, that's crazy how you got picked up by Dallas and supporting them. I just want to jump back a little bit. So why basketball? Why did you choose that over, say, football? Because I know you're a massive Cats fan, which we love. I'm a Cats fan too. In fact, the grand final was on in the background, so I had to turn it off. It was still a bit too painful. But why basketball over footy?
It was just sort of it felt natural. It came natural. I think my mum sort of noticed that I had a love for it from a really young age. Both my parents played down at Frankston and Chelsea back in the day, and like Dad was on the Frankston Bears when they played one season in the NBL, and Mum still played a bit after having us kids, and she would sort of say like she would take us down to Frankston Stadium and she would play, and all the other siblings would be running around causing whatever young kids do, and I'd be sort of sitting on the bench with a basketball in hand and just watching the game. And I think she just sort of saw that it was something that I gravitated towards from a young age. And I played a little footy growing up and really enjoyed it and wasn't too bad at it, but I was sort of a tall and very thin kid, and basketball was starting to take off as I was starting to get into footy as well, and just sort of made the decision to focus on basketball and make sure that I didn't get hurt or do anything to hurt my chances of playing basketball, which was sort of my first love and my true sporting love. Now I love watching AFL. That's definitely something that I do regularly over here, and always tuned into the Cats games, but basketball sort of that first love.
We've probably got a few American listeners listening to this. So I don't want to talk about footy too much, but were you a key back, key forward, ruckman? What was your position?
Centre forward, taking big marks and kicking snags. So it was fun, and then sort of pinch hitting the ruck back then as well. So definitely enjoyed my time down at. I played for Langley actually with a couple of mates. So I kind of get it a little bit, but it was fun back then.
Did you play with? I'm trying to think. Did you play with Mark Bagley or Luke Parker? Because they might have been around your age.
So I know Lukey Parker's about 2 years younger than I am. I'm not sure about the other guy you said, but I know Lukey pretty well because he played down at Frankston basketball as well, and. I've sort of known Luke for a long, long time, but no, not footy wise. I was a couple of years older.
Okay,
yeah, and not as good as him, obviously.
Yeah, I think you were like scouted. Back to basketball, you were scouted in the ALS, weren't you, in your final year? I don't think you were even starting, but you got scouted when you played at the Institute of Sport. Yeah, I did sort of my 18 months, 2 years up in Canberra at the AS and loved that time. And, that's about as competitive for Australian basketball as you can get for juniors. So I went through, like Matthew Dellavedova, me and him went through at the same time. And some other, players that have played in the NBL and gone over to college in the States. And it was a really strong year. And, I was decent there. Definitely not a standout. Definitely, not the guy every college sort of came out to see, but luckily enough, Valparaiso, who I went with, were one of those colleges that did take notice and did sort of pursue a little bit. And
There wasn't too many others, so everything worked out just perfectly with them.
Yeah, I was going to ask, a little birdie told me that, Valparaiso actually came to check out somebody else on the AIS, and then they just saw you and they chose you. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, they came to look at, I believe, Cody Ellis, who's 6'8", could do it all back then. Really, really good player. Son of Mike Ellis, who played a long time in the NBL. So I think they came originally to look at him, and he ended up going to St. Louis. I'm not sure if he did that before they sort of came after me, or if they were just sort of covering their bases and sort of checking on a few players. But yeah, I kind of got told that they were watching game film on him and sort of noticed this skinny kid running around shooting threes. So they sort of inquired, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And then, like, going over to America, obviously just everything's bigger compared to Australia, and the college life is just completely different. So was it a bit of a culture shock to you moving over there at a pretty young age?
Luckily, the AS does a great job of preparing you for that sort of change. I moved over there when I was 16, I believe. Left home and moved up to Canberra to live on very similar to a college campus, a campus, but it's just sports. We went to a local high school to finish off year 12 there, but it's kind of similar. Like you except for having the classes where you are, you just had to take a bus, but it was very regimented, and you had to work around your like lifting schedule and your practice schedule and your trainings and everything around your schooling, and as well as making sure you're eating the right things and doing all the right stuff. The big change obviously is going from still in Australia, an hour flight or whatever from home, to the other side of the country, and really not knowing anyone, not having played against anyone or met anyone through all the different programs there are, and for junior basketball in Australia. So that was a big thing, and just sort of finding your feet over here takes a little bit of time. Luckily, I had the basketball team was sort of the rock that I could kind of always go back to, and you make friends with your teammates first, and then as you get more comfortable, be able to immerse yourself in the college experience. And for a small Division I school like Valparaiso, I love my time there and wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the college experience. Now, our previous guest we had on was John Hillerman, and so he's a footballer. He played for the Giants, and he went to Boston College and Rutgers, and he said that, his college life, he said it was pretty crazy. I don't know, have you seen the show BMS, Blue Mountain State?
Yes.
Yeah, he said, he goes, definitely some of the stuff that happened in Blue Mountain State happened at my college, and I was wondering if you had a similar experience. I think it might have been a bit different for you.
Yeah, it's a little different. So I think we had 4,500 maybe in the entire college, and it was a private, Lutheran, faith-based college. So there was also no drinking allowed on campus, or the dry campus. Yeah, so I don't know what I was thinking when I signed on, but no, it was in college. You sort of, especially in small ones, you get to know everyone, and even though you see the same people at parties and things like that, you still find ways to have fun. And but it's definitely not up to that Blue Mountain State kind of level.
Have you watched that yet, Harper? Have you checked it out?
No, I haven't had a chance to check it out. Actually, would you recommend it?
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, is it Netflix, or where can I find it?
It's not on Netflix anymore.
It isn't? Oh, where can I check it out?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I have to find that out. If any listeners know where to find Blue Mountain State, is it? Send in a text, send in a message to the show, and I'll check it out. But we're speaking about college. Did you get big crowds at your games? Obviously, a bit of a smaller school compared to some of the other ones. What was the pressure like, and the atmosphere and the crowds?
Being a smaller college, we didn't have the enormous arenas like some schools do, but the Arc is what it was called, the Athletes Recreation Centre. I'm not sure what the capacity was, but basketball in Indiana is life and death, and being sort of a college town, it's the main sports team around, and the support from not just the college but the community was pretty amazing during that time, and we always had pretty full crowds, and especially as we're playing better and better as my time there went on, we would sell out, and it felt like any big stadium that you played in. Like, the noise was fantastic, and everyone from the community was so supportive, and you'd see people as you're walking down the street and they'll be like, good game the other day, and it really was a community, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I've got a question to ask, and I'm sure you'd be expecting it. Tell us about your the semi-final, and I think your senior year, and tell us about those last 20 seconds, because it's one of the craziest ends to a basketball game I've seen.
Yeah, it was. I think I get the update every year of that time, and I've replayed shot only a few hundred times. But it's a special moment, and something that I'll be able to look back on for when I'm done is definitely a highlight, and every kid, I guess, playing basketball, or any sport, has dreams about hitting the final shot or kicking the goal off the siren, or it's a dream that I got to live out. And
here we go, 5 seconds left. Here comes Ryan back. Broekhoff drives, cut off, tough fadeaway shot. It's good! Valpo wins! Ryan Broekhoff, a fadeaway three to win this game! Wow! We're going to take a look at the replay here. Wow! But the Crusaders, I believe, have won this game! Good! And Ryan Broekhoff, fadeaway three-pointer! An improbable shot! Wow!
Yeah, check it out on YouTube.
I reckon.
Horizon League semi-final 2012-13 season. It's bloody amazing clip.
Thank you, guys. We were semi-finals with a number one seed. Basically, you had to win the tournament to make it through to the NCAA tournament. So even though we won the regular season, it basically comes down to winning your conference tournament. So we were playing Green Bay at home. That's the luxury of finishing first. All the games are played at home, and yeah, they really played one great game against us, and kind of really had us in the towards the end. And I think we were down maybe I think it was 4 points. I think we were down 4 points with 15 seconds left or something, and we come down and we ran a play, I believe it was for me, and they kind of blew it up, and we ended up swinging the ball to Matt Kenny, and he hits a corner three over a 7-footer, contested tough shot to bring us back within one, and maybe 5 or 6 seconds left. So we're pressing, they get the ball in, I foul. Their 7-footer was really skilled, more of a stretch big than an inside. So I foul him, and he's 75, I think, career free throw shooter, and he's got 2 shots, and we're kind of like, we're in a bit of trouble here. If you play the right clip, it kind of cuts to our bench, and guys are head in their hands and, looking up at the sky like, this is our last chance. There were so many guys that I went through with that it was sort of our last year together, our senior year. This was kind of it. This was our last chance to make it to the tournament, and kind of, it was kind of hitting them that it was probably going to be done. And he ends up coming down. He makes the first, and then he leaves it short on the second. And we've got 5 seconds or 6 seconds. The center, Kevin, grabs a rebound, gives it to me, and we kind of just said, we'll sort of just play it how if he misses, then basically it's just get it down the other end and try and make a play, whether it's a 3 or a 2, send it overtime. We'll kind of just play this kind of, I'd been the sort of the leader and the I guess go-to guy for the last couple of seasons. So it was kind of put in my hands, and I was really thinking of when I was coming down the court that I was going to sort of cross over and try and get to the hoop and just sort of get the layup and force overtime. We'll try and win it there. So I'm bringing it sort of the mid, bringing it down the middle on the left side, and I cross left to right. I see a center that just passed it to me, sort of run next to me, and I kind of fumble as I'm trying to sort of bring it back, and we're kind of in each other's way, and I pull it back and sort of know the time's just about to go, and their center or power forward switched out, and I was basically, I have to just get something up. You can't just go up and just not get a shot up and give us no hope, and sort of took a step back and sort of rose up, and he rose up, and I was like, I'm going to have to sort of double clutch this because he might get to it, and just sort of threw it in complete hope that it was heading towards the basket, and just sort of didn't think it was going to go in, just how it felt coming out of the hands and what type of shot it was, and just sort of watched it and was like, oh, it's going straight at least, and I'm falling back, and I think I end up landing on the ground and I see it go in, and I didn't know what to do. I just sort of jumped up and started running around, and the place exploded, and it's something that I can still recall, as you can tell, pretty vividly.
Yeah, 100%. What was the celebration like after his shot? It wasn't like, I think it might have been OG from the Raptors when he hit that shot against the Celtics in the playoffs, and he just didn't celebrate at all. He just, because he expected it to go, and was it a pretty crazy celebration afterwards though?
It was me running around, fans going crazy. I was expecting the court to everyone from the stands to come out. We kind of ran around, and the teammates caught me and sort of piled on, and then the referees had to, take a look at it and make sure that I got it off, and to make sure that it was a three, and we all went back to the benches. And I sort of knew, I was like, it's definitely three. I definitely got it off. Like I knew, but there's still that little voice in the back of your head, like, did you? But
had you made a shot like that before?
Not in that kind of context, not with that much sort of on the line and the difficulty of it. You've hit shots to tie games and shots down the stretch to sort of ice games and like that, but not to that degree of difficulty and not with sort of the season on the line. So it really what makes it so special.
Mate, I'm just picturing when you're saying running around. Do you remember Harry Taylor when Isaac Smith missed that shot in the 2016 final when he just ran the whole field? Was that a bit like he just
very similar to that without the hobbling look? I love H. So
oh mate, I'm devastated he's retired. I love him too.
Yeah, retired just like a week ago. I think it's a bit sad. Always consistent play, even not as a Geelong fan, just universally admired, I reckon. But mate, you must have been like absolutely cloud nine after that, like semi-final, just the perfect end to a game for you, really. But then, like, must be a bit of a letdown going undrafted in the NBA draft. So how did that feel for you? Were you expecting to be drafted?
No, not particularly. I only did a few pre-draft workouts with teams, and I didn't think. I thought it was sort of a long shot if it was to happen. But 6'6", non-athletic, skinny guy that just shoots threes. Sort of, the basketball hadn't sort of changed like it has in the last year or two.
I was going to say, you just described just about the perfect player, shoots threes for today's game.
Yeah,
the basketball was so different 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh, 10 years ago, mate. Jeez, it was 7.
Doing dirty there, Lockie. Jeez.
So
yeah, definitely changed. Suited towards the skill set that I have, but I wasn't. I had hopes and things that it would happen, but I was pretty realistic that it wouldn't. And I'd already sort of spoken to my agent and would kind of sort of planned for the European option and how that would work. And someone like Joe Ingles is the perfect sort of player for me to career path to follow. Like, he went over after the NBL, went over to Europe and played some really big teams and did well, and then made the jump over to the NBA. And I was like, well, that can be my plan. And we're with the same agency and everything like that. So trust what they were doing, and not sort of put everything, live and die that I got to play in the NBA or whatever. Just sort of go where basketball takes me, and if I continue to improve and stuff, then there's always going to be chance for me to make the jump back over and try the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to ask about that. So you decided to go play in Europe. Were there any thoughts on coming over to play in the NBL? And why Turkey out of all the different European leagues? I'd be really interested to know, as well as what your thoughts were in going to a different country. I guess you'd already experienced that moving to America.
No, NBL, not really. Excuse me. Sort of finishing up in the AAS, I had, I guess, my only options basketball-wise were to go to college or to there was a developmental spot on an NBL team. So you sit on the end of the bench, you really don't play in any games. You just train with the team, but you don't even travel with the team. And I think you get maybe $5 or $10,000 for the whole season. And it didn't seem like the best avenue for me to keep improving. I'm sort of a firm believer that you need to be playing games competitively to improve. You can do all you want to do at training, but if you're not able to sort of take it to the game and use it, then what's the point?
Yeah. What about after you finished college? Did you ever consider going to the NBL instead of Europe?
No. I mean, there was obviously better offers after I'd finished college, and quite a few NBL teams have reached out, and have reached out over the last, whatever my career has been, 7 years now. Just sort of seeing if the time's right for me to come back, and it just hasn't got to that stage yet. The opportunities over in Europe and the NBA are sort of too hard to pass up. My first contract in Turkey was a really strong contract. It was sort of hard to turn down from an opportunity standpoint to go play on a pretty strong team in Turkey, which has one of the strongest leagues top to bottom, and make some decent money as well, coming straight out of college, and not being able to use my degree really for anything, unless I went back and studied a few more years. It seemed like the best avenue for basketball, and I was like, if I'm ever gonna make a job out of playing basketball, then this is the route I need to take, and these are the steps I need to follow, and I may as well completely dive in, and instead of sort of half and half, half worrying about school and half worrying about basketball, just sort of dive in and focus, make it my top priority.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big football, soccer fan, and I know the team you played for, Besiktas, they've got a football team as well, and they're one of the big three in Turkey. They're absolutely huge. It's like just a huge thing in Turkey. But what's it like playing for a big club like that, and just like living in Turkey, Istanbul in general?
Istanbul is beautiful. Loved my time there. Loved it. It's a great mix of everything. It's got great history. I went down to Gallipoli 1 year when I had a few mates come over. There's so much history there from the Ottoman Empire and old mosques and historical buildings that you can get to go and explore that we don't really have in Australia. And then it's got a great mix of all cultures and Western influence and Eastern influence and great food, and it really was an amazing city, and the people were very friendly, although not everyone spoke English, which made things interesting. They were very welcoming, and the fans of Beşiktaş are some of the most devout fans you'll ever see anywhere. So I would definitely enjoy my time and still get messages from fans from Beşiktaş, saying, come back, we miss you. So it's pretty sweet.
Did you try to learn any Turkish?
Yeah. Me and my now wife, did quite a bit of sort of, we got the Rosetta Stone, and we're like, I was there for 2 years, and after that we had agreed on a extension for another couple of years. So we're like, let's dive in and really get fluent. We got pretty good at just sort of getting by day to day, but as far as holding conversations and that, we were still very much learning. So probably forgot most of it now, but it was a fun experience to try and learn another language as you're kind of immersed in it.
And then moving over to Russia, just pretty soon after, did you try to learn any Russian?
Yeah, a little bit, just enough to get by day to day. The only bad thing about the countries that I played in is that they're basically just spoken in those countries. If I went to Spain and learned Spanish, it's a little bit more widespread. So we just kind of learned the basics enough to get by. But with European basketball, a lot of players move around quite a lot. So I wasn't going to sort of invest all that time into learning the language like I kind of did in Turkey, and then move without really becoming fluent.
Yeah, what was it like living in Russia? I don't know anybody that's lived or been to Russia. It seems like such an interesting country, and I'd love to get there one day.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I mean, it's a closed border, so it's pretty tough to get into. But it was, especially the big cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg, beautiful cities. Cold, really cold, but beautiful cities. Again, lots of history. The food's probably not as nice as it was in Turkey, but it was a lot of fun, and we spent 3 years there, and we loved our time. And again, as you became more comfortable there, and then people sort of accepted you, they were super friendly, and it's a pretty unique experience that we got to experience of spending time there.
Yeah, for me personally, when I think of the big basketball countries, the leagues, I don't really think of Turkey and Russia, but what's the quality like compared to the college and the NBA and Australia, like maybe the AIS?
They're probably, I think the rankings of countries basketball strength-wise over in Europe is sort of Spain 1, Turkey 2, Russia 3. There's a lot of money in basketball over in those countries, and Spain produce so many great talents that not just play in the NBA but in their own local league. So those are sort of the big three, money wise and competition wise, and very competitive leagues. Travel's pretty tough in Russia just because it's so big. And a lot of the times you'd have to fly through Moscow to then fly elsewhere. So Krasnodar, where I was sort of 2 hours south of Moscow, quite a southern point of Russia. So we'd have to fly 2 hours in the wrong direction to then fly wherever else. So it made road trips long and pretty challenging, but it's all worth it in the end.
So I just want to touch on now the 2016 Olympics. Like, what was it like to represent your country at the Olympic Games? I mean, it'd obviously be pretty special. And just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like, playing with fellow countrymen like Paddy Mills, Joe Ingles, Matthew Dellavedova. Like, there's a pretty talented team.
Yeah, there's been no greater achievement of mine than playing in the Olympics and playing for Australia. It's still sort of hard to talk about the whole ending and experience of it.
There was so much hype about that Aussie team, wasn't there? I just remember
being it really was, and we're right there, and it kind of comes down to a 50-50 foul call right at the end of the game that doesn't go our way, and it's sort of just heartbreaking being so close to being part of the first Australian team to have ever medaled in Olympic Games or World Championship. So there's time for retribution. Tokyo 2021.
Yeah, tell us about I think it was a game against America where we lost by like 10 points, but Australia really pushed them, and that was sort of just where we all sort of like everybody stood up and took notice with Australian basketball and thought these guys are a real chance of taking home a medal here.
Yeah, well, as you sort of said the names earlier, it's such a strong group of players. We've got a great presence here in the NBA, and the development of the NBL has just gone strength to strength, and guys have also gone over to Europe and made great careers for themselves and improved. So there's so much competition just to make the team that it's really improved everyone and pushed everyone to get to a new level, just to be able to put on the green and gold. And once you're sort of in it, that sort of camaraderie and love of country and brotherhood and everything that you kind of hear about Australian sports really comes out of you, and the passion, and it is sort of hard to put into words. It's completely different to playing professionally, where it's more of a job than playing for the love of it. But the Olympics is just it really is. It's love of country and love playing basketball and wanting to represent Australia the best way you can.
Yeah, actually, just on that, we actually had a listener get in touch and ask you a question that you covered the answer to. Xavier_Euckerman on Instagram asked what it's like playing for Oz. But I probably don't watch I definitely don't watch as much basketball as either of you two. And I remember watching that game against Spain and just being like so into it, and so I've never been into a basketball game more, tournament more, and I was just so shattered at the end of it. I don't really know much about basketball at all, to be honest, but it was just heartbreaking, man. It was, tough game, eh?
Yeah, you played really well as well, Ryan. You didn't miss a shot, 5 for 5.
It's about time I hit some shots during that tournament. But yeah, it's a very, very bittersweet memory to look back on. Being so close, but again, nothing. There's nothing like playing for your country in Olympic Games.
Well, looking forward to seeing you out there again in 2021 in Tokyo.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah, you played at World Cups as well. Obviously, what are they like compared to Olympic Games? So what's the pressure like and the just level of play like?
Pressure is very much the same, and the level of play is just as strong. You're probably just missing out on the full experience of the Olympic scene, all the other athletes, all the other competitions. When we could, trying to go out and see other events, just to you're in the presence of the best athletes on earth, and sort of seeing how they prepare and how they work, and just how far you can push your body to be the best at what you do is pretty inspiring and fun for me to go and watch.
Okay, now, so we'll fast forward a little bit here to it's now 2018, and you've made the decision to come across and go to the NBA. Is it true that you actually took a pay cut to go to the NBA? And I guess, how did it come about that you got picked up by Dallas? I before getting signed by Dallas, I'd signed a 2-year deal with one of the Turkish powerhouses in basketball. So that deal was done, and it had an NBA out, just sort of written in just in case, because there had been quite a bit of NBA interest. And then, I basically signed that deal, and a few days later, so my wife and I were sort of taking some time off, because before that, I think I'd worked out for 7 or 8 NBA teams in the span of 2 weeks or something like that. Like, I was just basically traveling and trying to, show what I could do and go to sort of individual workouts for teams. And it'd been pretty hectic. So we'd kind of gotten away after that was finished and free agency had begun, and sort of sitting back, relaxing, enjoying our time during the American summer, and get a phone call from the agency just sort of saying, you may be hearing something from the Mavs. They've shown some interest, and call back about an hour later saying, they've put a deal for 2 years, 1 year sort of guaranteed. This could be a really good opportunity with, they're trying to rebuild, and, you may be able to, find some really good opportunities. Even though, technically, yes, I took a pay cut, taxes and everything over here, but it felt like the
right decision from a career perspective. If I was ever going to make the jump and give it a try, then this was the time. I was at sort of the perfect age, 28, coming off some really good, strong seasons over in Europe, with all that momentum that, this was the time to make the jump and give it a go. And at least I could look back at sort of when I'm done and say, at least I gave it a shot. And if the time with the Mavs, it was basically, it for me in the NBA, at least I said I've done it. And if not, which I don't feel like it is, then, I can sort of say it was a building block onto something hopefully better.
Getting that offer from the Mavs, is that just a moment where you're just jumping up and down in excitement all around the room, dancing everywhere, or is it really like focusing and cracking down? I'm in the NBA now. I've really got to crack down and just go to peak performance.
No, it was more sort of celebrating. I definitely gone the long way to get here to a dream I had since I was a little kid. So it was more enjoying the moment and celebrating and calling and texting everyone once it was released, and sort of trying to share the good news and the excitement heading into my first NBA season.
Yeah, so you're a fan favourite in Dallas. Now, we got a second nickname. How did you get the nickname The Accountant? And I love that.
Just have a look at me, basically. I don't look, I get told quite regularly, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or an insult, that I don't look like a basketball player. So I think it was after a game in Philadelphia, my first year, I had a really good game. So, didn't really play much beforehand, if at all, leading into that game. And we had some injuries and weren't playing well, and coach kind of threw me in, and I had, sort of my best game to that point. And, I had some interviews after the game, and, I come out of the shower with sort of, slick back hair and glasses on, and not looking like a basketball player. And sort of the fan section or the comment section on the post went pretty bananas with all different job descriptions. There was a salesman or an accountant or a maths teacher or a phlebotomist, which is people that take blood when you go to the doctors, and all sorts of pretty hilarious job descriptions that I look like I do instead of being a basketball player. And for some reason, the accountant stuck.
Oh, I study accounting, so I'll take that as a compliment. Did you study business or anything at college?
No, I studied kinesiology and exercise science. So I was heading into like physiotherapy, sort of. Okay. Oh. That was sort of my post college career path. Yeah,
fair enough. But when you went to Dallas, obviously getting that offer, it's just probably a surreal feeling for you, and you ended up getting starts, getting your debut, getting some points. Was that something you expected, and what was the feeling like when you just started hitting all those milestones in your career?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to kind of expect. It's such a competitive league, and there are so many very talented players that they're in the NBA. So I sort of set little goals for myself, just about getting on the court and making sure I shoot the ball well. 40% is sort of the baseline that I want to be shooting 3-pointers at. So that was more sort of goals, but as things started to pan out the way they did, and I wasn't playing much, and I was more so just staying mentally and physically ready for when opportunities do arrive, and taking them when I get the chance. And I think Philadelphia, that game where I got the nickname, was sort of that perfect for me, a perfect answer to what I'd led up before. Who's this Australian guy that doesn't really play much? He's supposed to be a shooter, and I come out and play well after not playing for 3 or 4 weeks. So it was more just sort of staying ready. It's a very common term over here about staying ready when you're not playing for opportunities to come up and to take advantage.
Yeah, it must have been frustrating because every time you got out on the court, your minutes weren't there, but you shot over 41% in your first year, 39% second year, and that's obviously awesome numbers, but you just weren't really given the opportunity. How did you deal with that frustration of not getting the playing time that you probably deserved?
It's more so just using it as kind of motivation. So, I wouldn't be playing, so I'd go in and do a whole bunch of extra shooting and work, just to try and, I guess, vent that frustration and kind of, the last thing I want to do is take that sort of frustration or negativity home with me and whatever it is, be in a bad mood with my wife or now with a young son. So I was just finding outlets to release all that and I guess find ways to find joy in the process and in the hard work that you put in to get here and to hopefully when opportunities do come to that hard work to pay off. So we're sort of just focusing on that there will be opportunities taken when you can get them and hopefully by showing that you can perform and shoot well that it will lead to more and more opportunities.
Do you reckon there were any times when like maybe your frustration got the better of you and might have even been thinking, geez, maybe I should have stayed in Turkey, Russia for another couple of years just so I can get even better and then come into an NBA side and maybe start and play regular games?
No, I don't think there was ever a point where I thought if I go back to Europe that's sort of the answer to getting back to the NBA. It just, if I go back over to Europe, it's probably the end of my NBA journey, which is not a bad thing. Look, I love my time over in Europe and basketball over there is great and you get paid well. So it's not like it's a bad thing or I see it as a bad option. It was more so just, especially dealing with all the travel, is putting in all this time and effort and time away from the family. Is it all sort of worth it? And that was sort of during, the real tough times where, wasn't playing and things weren't going well. And especially my first year, we weren't winning any games. And, you always go through all different scenarios in your head about what you could have done or what the team should have done or should I have come here or whatever. But usually I'm pretty positive and luckily I have great support around me to kind of dig me out of those dark holes.
Now, that's a great attitude, I think, to have, like positivity, and I feel like you're obviously dealing it with a really mature way because I'm sure everybody knows if things aren't going right with their sport, with their work, it is really easy just to throw the toys out of the cot, but you obviously dealt it in a really mature way, and I think that's commendable and something that I think our listeners could definitely take on board. Now, I've got another question. I'm sure you get asked this a lot. You obviously play with some pretty special players, and I think you probably know who I'm going to ask about. Not Dorian Finney-Smith, even though I'm a massive fan of his play.
I love Dodo.
Oh man, he played well in the playoffs. I really like what he brings to the table. But I guess what was it like playing with Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki, two of the best European, exports to the NBA and to the Mavs?
Dirk was surreal playing with him. A living legend. Moved around as well as about Harry Taylor does, but just an absolute rock of the Mavs organization, and to be there that final year and to see him, lace it up, just to work. He was still putting in at his age, and what he had to do just to kind of get ready to play a game was pretty special to kind of see the love he has for the game and how much the Dallas community and the NBA community loves what he's done for the game. So it was pretty emotional, that last game of his, seeing him finish up, and we sort of basically just try to feed him the ball to get him as many points as he kind of could, and it was a lot of fun, and something that would cherish that I could spend time with one of the greats and sort of see the blossoming of the next big thing in not just Dallas basketball but the NBA. Luka's special. He's very special. Makes the game look incredibly easy. Reads the game so well. Plays his own pace, and to do it all when he was 19 coming into the league was kind of maddening to me, because he's 19 years old and he just makes it look easy and effortless, and here I am slugging it out. But you know, love that kid, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's only going to go on to bigger and better things, and hopefully that means success for the Dallas Mavs going forward.
Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, in February this year, you were waived, which I think was really disappointing, because, you know, you just recently got your first start and you started to play some really solid basketball. So that must have been so frustrating for you.
Yeah. It was sort of a little out of the blue.
Yeah.
You know, I started playing more in sort of the early mid part of the season, and then I got a freak hit and fractured a bone in my leg, and that sort of, you know, put me back again, and then I sort of was out for you know, a month at least, and then sort of started to work my way back in, and I started a game in Houston, and thought I was starting to sort of play more and establish myself as part of the rotation. And you know, I heard the rumors that they'll look inside Kid Gilchrist, and obviously they have to make room if they were to bring him in, and there's always a chance that it was going to be me. But I was hoping that sort of my performances were starting to cement me in the squad. But it's a business over here. Things change very quickly. You know, I was emotional when it happened, and my mum was here at the time, and she was ropeable, so I kind of shuffled her out of the arena before I told her the news. But yeah, it took a little time to sort of digest, and then it was kind of, you know, we have to figure out what's next. And yeah, unfortunately, everything just kind of shut down as we were talking to other teams, and you know, I almost went back to Europe at that point as well. So we were exploring all options, and then everything just went to a standstill.
Yeah, 100%. There's a little story that I've heard, which I'd like for you to comment on, that after you unfortunately found out the news, you actually still made sure that you went out and spoke to a kid that was there to see you, which I think is a pretty amazing thing to do, considering the news that had just been dealt to you.
Yeah, I believe it was a Make-A-Wish kid that had come and got sort of the backstage pass to you know, post game and meeting players and you know, things like that. And here I am complaining about, you know, losing my job or whatever, and you know, this kid's fighting for his life. You know, I believe he was dealing with cancer, and you know, he's obviously had a lot tougher than I have. So it's pretty easy for me to suck it up and give him 5 minutes of time, which is pretty precious to him, and hopefully leave a good impression for him about the organization and what the Mavs do, and myself personally. And it really wasn't a big deal from sort of my perspective to do that, but hopefully he got a lot out of it and enjoyed his you know, time behind the scenes with the Mavs, and yeah, it really puts life into perspective about what's important.
I know you've just been modest, but I think that was a pretty amazing thing to do. I think, Harper, you got a question now.
Oh yeah, like obviously you're at the Philadelphia now, so moving from Dallas, obviously just out of the blue, like you said. And obviously they're not just going to stop existing, and you might have to watch some of their games, play against them even. So what's it like kind of observing from the outside where you could have been? Is there any, like it could be totally reasonable if you were jealous or frustrated or angry at them, but do you have any of those feelings, or have you got a pretty cool head in terms of that?
After the initial sort of, you know, frustration and emotions and, you know, sadness, that you just have to kind of move past it, and there's no point holding grudges or, you know, being jealous of teammates or anything like that. Life's sort of too short, and you never know what happens in the future. You might cross paths with someone that you work with, or your boss, or whatever it is, and the last thing you want to do is burn bridges because of you flying off the rails when you're emotional. So I look at it from a big picture perspective, and the NBA is a funny business, so anything could happen. But was very fortunate to be picked up by Philly, and was sort of down in Philly on my way to Orlando, and wife gets COVID, and I have to sort of stay with her. She's got some underlying medical conditions, and
is she okay now?
Yeah, she's fine. She had pretty mild symptoms, luckily, but we had he was about a year-old boy, and she wasn't well, and sorry, honey, I'm just going to sneak away for 2 months. You'll be right.
Yeah.
Never really crossed my mind. So we had to take care of my family first, and that will always be my priority.
So what are your moves, I guess, now? Are you looking to go back to Philadelphia? Because I think your contract was, if I'm correct in saying, runs out at the end of the bubble. Do you sort of know where you're at, or are you speaking to a couple of different teams?
Yes, just speaking to teams. Would guess just let my agent do his job. So yeah, it was very disappointing that the bubble didn't work out, and would have loved to have joined Philly down there, and hopefully being a piece to kind of help them. But that's just life, and especially during this crazy COVID time, a lot of things sort of take a backseat to your job or your profession. So yeah, we're just sort of waiting around for free agency to begin, when they still haven't exactly announced it, but it's going to be sort of after the NBA draft, which is in about 2 weeks. So yeah, just sort of waiting to hear from teams, working out to stay ready, and hopefully it's a team here over in the States.
Yeah, 100%. I've actually, I hope that you can stay at Philly just so that the accountant can team up with Daryl Morey, the analytics genius. I think that'd be a nice little crossover, that one.
We'd have some pretty interesting, we'll run some numbers by each other. That's cool.
Now, mate, I hear you've got, you're a vegan, and that's something that's interesting to both of us. And I'm a vegetarian, but it's always been a bit challenging for me personally to switch over to be fully vegan. So can you tell us about your reasoning behind switching to that diet, and how it's improved your health and your performance and your mental health especially?
Yeah, we're in Russia, sort of killing time by watching Netflix documentaries, if I could speak, and just watched a few of them, and things like What the Health, and a few other ones, and we just kind of saw how animals are treated, and what goes, sort of the process of how they go from being born and raised to end up on your plate, and just sort of weren't too thrilled with how that was, and sort of said, my wife and I said to each other, let's sort of give it a go, and we were big eaters of meat and chicken and fish and eggs and everything like that. So it was a bit of a change for us, but when you're overseas and you got some time on your hands, you're able to put time into cooking and eating a lot at home, and we're probably like 95% vegan, 100% vegan for probably about 18 months to 2 years. And then my wife got pregnant and we had a baby, and that extra time that we had to sort of devote to cooking and
babies take up a bit more of your time than you just
do,
a bit of your time.
Exactly. And I'm traveling a lot, and it's just there's more and more options becoming available, but when you go out to restaurants, it's very limited. So we're still majority plant-based, and we do most of our cooking at home, and even when we go out to eat, there's a lot more options available for us. But we're sort of not. If we do go out to, say, an Irish restaurant, or there's a really famous steakhouse here in Dallas that we've been to. Like, if we go there, then we'll allow ourselves to sort of have our cheat meals throughout the week or throughout the month, just to kind of. It's kind of you'd be sort of it's just too hard to kind of buy in 100%, and then if you do make a mistake, then you feel bad. So we're just kind of playing it pretty easy and very conscious about what we do eat. I think dairy is a big thing we've sort of cut out, and from a health perspective, we feel great, and I've been able to put on muscle and feel strong, get stronger, eating a plant-based living a plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think it's improved your performance? Because I know that, like, Chris Paul, he's gone on the plant-based diet after, I think, seeing game changes, and he had one of his best seasons, particularly, I guess, in the games played, and he thinks the vegan diet is the main reason for that. Have you felt a similar sort of improvement in your output?
Yeah, just less sluggish, not just on the basketball court, but just in life in general. A lot of those meals, meats and stuff are very heavy and take a long time to digest, and you just kind of feel lethargic after those big meals where, being plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, it's a lot lighter, and you can consume as much as you want and not have to sort of worry about having too many calories. You definitely can support all the, I always get the question, how do you get enough protein and things like that? And, what the large animals that we eat, what do they eat to get their protein? They eat grass, they eat leaves, they eat green things. They don't just magically have protein in them. So it's more so just, being smart about what we eat.
No 20 bananas a day like Peter Siddle?
Oh my gosh, poor man. That's ridiculous.
I'm vegetarian, but the struggle I've had, like, if I wanted to go vegan, I couldn't, like, I just wouldn't be able to cut out yogurt. I'd find it really hard because, like, I eat so much yogurt. It's bloody delicious. The Greek yogurt, it's good stuff. But would you give any particular tips for someone that wanted to go from a meat eater to a vegan, or even a vegetarian to vegan, just cutting the stuff out and like cold turkey, or what's your method?
No, probably for a lot of people, I'm pretty stubborn about when I make a decision. If I go cold turkey, as you say, then I'm pretty good at following it, and my wife's very much the same. So we were sort of able to go cold turkey to begin with, but I think the best probably option is to do a gradual decrease in whatever it is that you're eating. Excuse me, whether it be meat or dairy. Eggs are very popular and things like that. So it'd be more like a gradual. Let's cut it down to eating meat 3 nights a week for dinner instead of 5 or 7, or just slowly cutting back. And when you get to sort of down no days a week, I don't have cravings for burgers or steaks or chicken palms or whatever it is.
Just quickly, Parma or Palmy?
Parma.
Yeah. All right, he's cool. He's
spot on.
So yeah, your body will adjust, and your taste buds will kind of adapt to the new food you're eating, and you won't have the cravings for that other stuff. And there are so many meat alternatives now. Like, we can still have burgers, and we just have the Beyond Meat burgers, or the Impossible burgers, or we're not really big into tofu. Sort of soy isn't a huge thing for us. So we do almond milk or oat milk. We do coconut milk yogurts. That's an easy way to make the change. Coconut being pretty sweet, it can kind of mimic the taste of regular yogurt. So there's so many alternatives that can help you sort of make that adjustment without you really sort of noticing too much about the flavor or changing what you're eating. So try some coconut yogurt instead of regular or Greek yogurt, and just sort of see if you can just slowly make that change.
Now, just quickly, we've got one more question before we go to our famous quiz. I think we skipped over it, but I wanted to speak about it. So your career high, 17 points against Golden State Warriors was KD and Curry playing. Like, that's pretty phenomenal. Do you want to tell us about that? Because I feel like we touched a lot about your hardships of your career, but you also had some real high points, like 17 points in the NBA, probably the hardest league to get into in the world in any sport. It's phenomenal effort.
Thank you. You'd have to double check about who was playing. I definitely remember guarding Klay Thompson and just thinking this is going to be a fun night. But as for Steph and KD, I believe KD was playing. I'm not 100% about Steph. But yeah, it was that was just one of those games where everything went right for everybody, and I think we won by 40 points in their home gym, and like it was one of those games that you look back and like, how did everything just kind of click so perfectly? So it was it's nice to get my career highs, and I think they were defending champions as well. So mix that in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, now Lockie mentioned it before. I know it's a segment you came on for, Ryan. It's our famous "Where Do We Begin" quiz. So, Ryan, I'm going to be pitting you against Lockie. I've got 5 questions that are very, very vaguely related to your career. And your name's your buzzer. And, do you want to start our 5 questions now? You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, so, as I said, very vaguely related to your career. So what's your birthday, just quickly, Ryan?
August 23rd, 1990.
Okay, and on the question 1 is, on August 23rd, 1990, You Can't Touch This was in its last week at the top of the Australian charts. Who is the song co-written, produced and performed by?
Ryan. MC Hammer.
MC Hammer is absolutely correct. We started with an easy one. Ryan's 1-0 up.
Before your time, boys.
I didn't know that one.
You didn't know that? Jeez, I thought you'd been a music buff in terms of that kind of stuff, Lockie. But anyway, question 2. This is the closest to the pin one. So, of course, you played for Besiktas, as we mentioned before. They're based in Istanbul. Closest to the pin, what is the population of Istanbul as of 31st of December last year?
Ryan, I'm going to say it's something ridiculous. Maybe 15 million. 15
million? Lockie, what's your guess?
Okay, so I actually have no idea. So I tactically let Ryan go first, and I'm not sure if it's
you said 15 million and one. I'm done. I'm
going to go. I'll go 14.5 million.
Oh, geez, you've gone under, but it's over. So Ryan gets the point.
No.
It's 15,519,267.
Oh, you are kidding.
So
I was very close.
Yeah, it's the 15th biggest city in the world. So
big city. It's busy. That's for sure.
Yeah, of course. So question 3, another one related to your birthday. On August 23rd, 1754, great year, that one, Louis XVI, King of France, was born. So you share a birthday with Louis XVI. Louis XVI eventually died in 1793. How did he die?
Jeez, mate, you haven't given me a chance here. You've asked me questions on a song in the 90s, a city I've never been to.
Think about the King of France. Any idea how the King of France would die at a pretty early age?
Were they still burning witches then?
Is that poisoned?
Ryan, is that your answer? Poisoned?
It's poisoned.
It's incorrect. Rocky, do you want to have a crack? You're saying he's a witch?
I'll say, gout.
Gout is incorrect. He was guillotined.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that was the French Revolution. If there are any history buffs listening to the show, give us a message. I'm not sure if that was the same era, but is it 2-0 Ryan, is it?
Yeah, we'll say that.
Okay. So, question 4. So the word broke, or B-R-O-E-K, means pants in which language primarily spoken in Western Europe?
Lockie. I'm going to say German.
German is incorrect. Ryan, want to have a crack?
Yeah, that's probably where I was going to guess. I'll just say, I don't know, the Netherlands, where the name originates.
The answer's Dutch, so you've got the point.
There we go. Come on, mate. I told you that's where the name was from.
Don't worry, mate. I'm clutch. I'm a bit like you in that semi-final. I get the last question right.
Okay, and Lockie still does have a chance because question 5 is a who am I question. So I'm going to go from 5 points all the way down to 1 point with a series of clues. And once you buzz in and get it wrong, you can't buzz in until the other person gets it wrong. So we'll start with the 5-point clue. I was born on July 17, 1954 in Baltimore, Maryland. I'll move to the 4-point clue. Lockie has to get it here if he wants to win it outright. If he gets it at 3 point, we might go to a tiebreaker. But anyway, for 4 points, I first gained recognition playing the role of Dr. Snapper Foster in the soap opera The Young and the Restless.
You're really not looked after me here, mate.
Got to make it hard on the early clues. Do you want to have a stab, Lockie? Yeah. Try to win it outright, or do you want me to move on?
I've got no idea. So how old would that person be now? Okay.
This person would be 68.
Mate, I'm just going to go because Charles Dance from Game of Thrones because I know he's old. And he's an actor.
Incorrect, I'm afraid. But we'll move on to the 3-point clue. So Ryan, it's just you now for 3 points. I set the Guinness World Record as the most watched man on TV. You could be in for a huge win here if you get it here. 6-0. It's a respectable margin.
Trying to think back to
should I move on to the 2-point clue?
Let's keep going.
Keep going. I've worked as a judge on America and Britain's Got Talent, appeared in numerous films, released triple platinum albums, but I'm
Is it Simon Cowell?
Lockie, I'm afraid you can't buzz in. You've buzzed out, mate. You've already had your guess. I've released triple platinum albums, but I'm most known for my work on a show that ran from 1989 to 2000.
1989?
Yep.
2000.
Shall I move on to the 1-point clue?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Simon Cowell too, but that doesn't. Wow. I don't think. Yeah.
You know what? Okay, I'll let you back in. It's a dead rubber, so I'll let you back in. You can have a guess if you want. For 1 point, I produced and starred in Baywatch, and I'm nicknamed the Hoff.
Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff is absolutely correct.
Oh.
Lockie's got the point, but it's still a fairly hefty victory for Ryan. It's 3-1. Congratulations, mate.
The better man won.
Thank you. Yeah.
One of the highlights of your career, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Ryan. That was awesome just to have a chat, and we really appreciate it.
Anytime, fellas. I had fun.
Wow, how good was that?
What a cracker of an episode. Ryan Broekhoff, an absolute delight speaking with you, mate. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was an absolute dream of mine for you to come on, Ryan. You know, I love the NBA, so to have an NBA player on of your stature was absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's our first basketball we've ever had on the show, so it was an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. But before we wrap up, Lockie, do you reckon it's time to plug the socials?
Yep, so you can find us on Facebook at Where Do We Begin?
Yeah, and on Instagram and Twitter. You should already be following us there, but if you're not, go there right now. It's at WDWB Pod. That is at WDWB Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, because that would just be enormously appreciated, or even just by word of mouth, recommending us to some mates. If you like the show, that would just be appreciated beyond words.
And and thank you to all the listeners for sticking around, you beautiful, beautiful people. We appreciate it so much for giving us all that support. Yeah,
if you've listened to any of our episodes, especially this one, we absolutely love you for it. So thank you very much for listening to the show, this one and all of the episodes that you've listened to. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next Monday.